What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and I am back with another preview show for you today as we look ahead to KSW 87, which goes down over in the Dvorak Arena in the Czech Republic on October the 14th. It is a very interesting card. Maybe doesn't have as many of the big standout KSW names as we're getting more accustomed to, I suppose, but there are some very fun fights in this. I expect there to be some knockouts on this card, if I'm being honest, and it's a very interesting one at a very interesting time, I think, for KSW, but also for the world of mixed martial arts as well. I think it's good as well that KSW have a card coming up quickly after they announced the massive welterweight fight between Saladin Parnas and Adrian Bartosiński. Parnas looking to become a three-weight champion and make history. And we know the history of the, I suppose, three-weight championships, that it hasn't really worked out all that very well down through the years for people. But I think, look, it's going down on December 16th. That's one to massively look forward to. You know, we have a great stack of cards coming up between now and the end of the year in various promotions, and that's definitely one. So we have KSW 87 on October 14th, the one I'm going to preview today. We have 88 on November the 11th, and we have 89, the card with Parnas fighting for the third title on December the 16th. So 3 more cards for the year, unless there's something else added. But a great slate from KSW. And you always know with KSW, you're going to get those cards. You're going to get those monthly cards. You're going to get the same fighters fighting in meaningful matchups on these well-promoted cards in front of brilliant crowds regularly. And, what more do you want, really? That's exactly what you want. And I think, just before I get into the preview, and I think I did it with the last PFL show. I think I did it with the last One Championship show. And I think it'd be wrong not to do it with this KSW show. There's been a lot of talk recently about who is the leading promotion outside of the UFC and who's going to maybe take Bellator's place if Bellator went away, or, obviously, look, if Bellator joined up with PFL, everyone would kind of say, look, Bellator / PFL, Nuco, if you want to call it that, are going to be the ones. But, I think there are plenty of other places out there that put on great shows, that get great crowds, and that are doing MMA the right way. And I definitely think KSW is one of those. I obviously have covered a lot of KSW over a lot of years now at this stage, but kind of, I suppose, came later to it, or don't, maybe I don't concentrate on KSW as much as, say, even, obviously, the UFC and Bellator, but even the likes of Cage Warriors and other places. But every time I step into it, which is more now recently than before, I suppose, it's always done well, right? They sometimes they do the fun heavyweight mad matchups, but less recently, I think. It's more like real MMA with real fighters who are paid well as well, who can have a whole career over there, and who are brilliantly entertaining. And, that's what we want from MMA. That's really what we want from MMA. And I think because KSW have kind of done it in their region, right, and they've gone beyond their region. We see this card is in the Czech Republic, and they've done cards in Ireland and the UK and all of that. I think because of that, and mostly these days they are sticking to their region. Maybe they're looked down upon a little bit, or maybe they're like, oh well, that's not English speaking, or that's not English, or that's not American, or that's not Australian, or that's not Canadian. It's not the same. Why not? Why not? I definitely think it is, and it should be viewed that way, and they should be viewed as a top promotion. And I truly believe they are. KSW is one of the few promotions over the last number of years that can say that they have world-class quality and can hold on to it. Because they pay so well, because they have actual genuine matchups to keep those people interested, they have been able to do it. And, if you think about that, right, in a UFC-dominated world, that is an amazing thing for them to be able to do for years. An absolutely insane thing for them to be able to do for years. And the way it's run, the amount of money they invest in it and all of that, and the support that they have and the TV deals that they have and all of that to enable them to do that is absolutely and utterly fantastic. And, you know, I've said it a good few times now here, but I really wanted to say it again this time because there's so much discussion about Bellator, about BFL, about One Championship. KSW deserve to be a part of that conversation. They absolutely do. And if you don't have them as part of that conversation, I don't think you're having a correct conversation. Right? And it's not an important conversation or anything like that. It's very much like conjecture. It's very much us giving our opinion and all of that. But I think the smart person will have KSW as part of that opinion. I was thinking as well there recently, right? Do you know how hard it is to keep a promotion going for so long? It's insane. So someone pointed out to me the other day that PFL and its current guys is only going since, I think, 2018. Now, they're doing a great job, and, you know, 5 or 6 years later or whatever it is, it feels like PFL have been around for forever, but they really haven't been, you know? And how many promotions came and went, or how many promotions went on breaks and ended up coming back, or were sold or bought by new people or changed names or whatever. And I know they were World Series of Fighting before and all that, but it's mad. It is mad. And I think places like KSW absolutely deserve that respect for being able to hold on, and not just hold on, but thrive as well in a crazy world. Mixed martial arts is an absolutely crazy world, and they're a great part of it, and we should appreciate them. And we should also appreciate this great card coming up this weekend. And let me get straight into it, because there are some very interesting fights here. The main event is a high-quality heavyweight fight between Darko Stosic and Michal Martinek. Stosic, we obviously, a lot of people might know him from the UFC, knockout artist with 12 KOs, and he's 18 wins. Has been back now, I suppose, fighting in KSW, and he'd one fight in Brave, all right, but last fight in the UFC was in 2020. He fought Jamal Hill. You know, he'd gone on a bit of a losing streak, I suppose, 3 in a row. Look, and all those losses, I suppose, have improved since then. Jamal Hill, obviously, Kinney and Chukwu, and Evan Clark, who are 3 very, very good fighters. But, you know, he beat Jeremy Kimball before that as well. And, you know, he had fights in FCC and or FFC even, and other places. He fought Yuri Prochazka even back in the day in 2014. So that's the type of fighter he is, and the type of fighter he has been fighting for years. He's won 5v7 fights, I think, since that stint in the UFC, only losing to Shamil Gassiev in Brave, and Phil DeFries, obviously the champion in KSW, beat Michael Keita a couple of times in there as well. His opponent, Martinek, is 33 years of age, so he's actually older than him, but it feels like he is the younger fighter coming up with Stosic at 31. 10-4 in his career with 6 knockouts. I suppose the biggest matchup of his career so far was against Daniel Oleksii last time out. He lost the split decision. He's fought around. He was in Dana White Contender Series in 2019 and ended up losing to Rodrigo Nascimento. He's fought and beaten Victor Peshta. So he's fought some good people over the last few years, but I'm very impressed with him, and I think his style is the type of style that you almost need to have 14, 15, maybe even 20 fights to be brilliant at, especially at heavyweight. I would compare him to Cyril Gagne. I think that's the type of fighter he is. Now, people always give out to me for the way I say Cyril Gagne. Cyril Bongaman Gan, so Cyril Gan. He is that outside fighter who moves around on his feet, doesn't move like a heavyweight, you know, switches, doesn't massively switch stances, but he is a southpaw and throws that straight left down the middle, but he moves and moves and moves and moves. Nicknamed Blackbeard. Training out of Prague, so he will be a favourite here in the Czech Republic. As you know, he's fought in Octagon, fought in ACC as well. But he's a calm, assured striker, very technical. One thing as well that you need when you're fighting that sort of game is good cardio, and he absolutely has it. I was watching one of his fights, he went 3 rounds, and he was fighting the same in the 3rd round as he was in the 1st round. The one I said there, he's the type of guy for his style that's going to need 15, 20 fights to really be it. And it's not, I think it is a large part of the striking style, needs a lot of practice in game. But I also think for him personally, he's a little bit green on the ground. Now, you might watch one of his fights and go, Sean, what are you talking about? But sometimes he gets caught in positions where he turns a positive, good position into a bad position. Just because I think he feels like he should be a well-rounded mixed martial artist. Oh, there's a takedown there, I should go for it. Or someone kicks me in the leg, oh, I should catch that and take him down. Well, I don't think that's necessarily always the case, but he does that. But when he does get on top, and when he does secure it, he has very good ground and pound. Like, he's the sort of guy I think he'd be better off either pushing a guy off and getting back up, or staying in the guard and just land old school guard punches. Right, when he tries to pass or when he tries to go into half guard or go into side control, he's liable to get his back taken and things like that. Now, sometimes he isn't, right? Sometimes it goes well. But if you're fighting a guy who's really good on the ground, that's an issue. Now, is Stosic that? Not necessarily, I don't think, but I wouldn't take that chance either. Last thing, just on Martinek, he does, as I said, good ground and pound, but I think he's better off kind of staying away from it. Stosic on the other side then, watching his fights with Kita back, his leg kicks are really something he's not necessarily added to his game, but they've become a bigger part of his game, I think, over the last few years. I think a big problem in that Kita fight is Kita jabbed him, the second fight especially, he jabbed him and jabbed him and jabbed him. If he does that against Martinek and leaves that happen, or Martinek does that to him, I think that's a big issue for Stosic, because I think it actually might have been the first fight where Kita had him kind of reddened up and had him bleeding a little bit from the straight shots. And that has happened in more than one fight as well for Stosic. But what he has is the equalizer inside. He has that massive inside power, and he will take as many shots as he wants on the outside to land that inside. What he is really is a great counter fighter, but not a counter fighter in this traditional sense where you kind of wait for someone to strike and counter them. He will push you inside, kind of turn you into an inside fighter, and then counter that, which is not always an easy thing to do. And if you wrap up with him and try to take him down and stuff, I think that's a good way to stop it. But if you do that, he also has very good takedowns himself, and he's very good on the ground, as I mentioned. Now, maybe, as I said, I don't know, does he have the jiu-jitsu to maybe take advantage of it, but he does have very good wrestling. And I'll get to the takedowns in a second, but just to finish the point on the kind of the inside game, like, that inside game is dangerous, and to beat Stosic, you have to beat the inside game, unless you knock him out in 2 seconds or whatever. But if he gets inside, you have to do something to stop it. Now, what should Martinek do? Well, first of all, Martinek should not let him get in there, and that will be his game plan. That's his game plan against everyone, if we're being honest. He fights on the outside, he fights to move away from people, and that's actually a perfect game plan against Stosic. So just do that, right? But if he does get inside, he cannot just allow him to throw those big shots inside. He can't. He just can't do it. If he does it, he'll get hit, and he'll get hit hard. So either put him against the cage, tie up with him, try to take him down, judo throw him or something like that. You just cannot allow him to land those shots inside, right? The other side of it then, I talked about the counter shots inside. I think the counter takedowns are really good. He doesn't go for him enough though. You know, he's one of these guys. Funnily enough, I was talking about Josh Koscheck to someone recently. He's a very good wrestler, but he rathers the striking. You know, he would rather lose a striking match almost than get a takedown and win on the ground. And that's, you know, maybe that's not true, but he doesn't go for the takedowns enough, and he's so good at them. He has an unbelievable counter blast double, and then he's very strong when he gets on top as well. He puts that, like, what he is good at, right? I would describe him as like an old school wrestler. If you I've seen a couple of guys like wrap up a leg and try to sweep him and get out the side, and they can. But when he gets up on top of a lad and he puts the shoulder in and he pushes them down and maybe holds in their leg as he's doing it, he's very hard to beat. Very hard to get off you. Like catch wrestling stuff almost. He'll catch you in a head and arm choke or something like that. And if you're Stosic's camp, if you want Stosic to get the win here and nothing else, that should really be the game plan. Barge inside, get a takedown, or else let him come to you, counter him with that takedown and take him down double leg in the middle of the cage and get on top of him. The other way around, if you're a Blackbeard, you have to not allow that. You have to move and move and move, use that southpaw straight left the whole time, use that jab the whole time and just eat him up and eat him up and eat him up. I think it's a fascinating fight. It's the type of fight I love. It is the type of fight I love. The guy who is hell-bent on coming inside to the guy who's hell-bent on staying on the outside and will move around and is very good at doing that for 3 rounds. I'm going to pick Martinek. I like him. I like his style. He's my type of fighter. And I think I'll say the word cardio again. I think he has the cardio to stay away from Stosic for long enough and pick him off. So that's the pick I'm going for there. Love this fight though. Really, really love it. I also really, really love the Roman Szymanski against Leo Brichta fight. And before I go on here, let me give a shout out to my guy Sean Dinny for a lot of information on a lot of these fights and a lot of the pronunciations and a lot of help. Always a great man. If you don't follow him over on Twitter at Dinny Rants, he is an absolute legend, an absolute beacon of knowledge on MMA in this scene, and really, really, really good. Follow his work. He does previews over in Severe MMA and stuff all the time for these KSW cards and for the Octagon cards and all. So, and he's a really great help for me with cards like this. So shout out to him for always giving that helping hand. This lightweight fight between Szymanski and Brichta is fascinating. Sometimes you see a guy, and I'd never seen Brichta before, and it's one of those fighters you see. He's 11-3, right, which is okay. It's a good record, but like I looked at a couple of his fights and I'm like, how is this guy undefeated or not undefeated? Like this guy is brilliant. And I looked at his Sherdog, and he hasn't lost since 2019. All 3 of his losses came in the first 7 fights of his career or something like that. He has won his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fights in a row. There's a no contest in there as well, but an accidental headbutt. So we'll go with 8 in a row. 7 out of 8, 1 in no contest. And some of the guys he's beaten, Damian Lapalus, we know how good he is. Beating some very, very good guys in there as well. I could not speak highly enough of him after watching a few of his fights. An athlete is the first thing you have to say. He's fast. He's that, I like to call him sideways boxers, where he's like the not so much the karate stance and not so much the boxing stance, but it's almost like, that old school boxing stance is like this, with like the arms halfway down the body. That's the way he fights, but he's so rhythmic with it. He always throws in combos. He's like, do you know those those boxing bags with the air in them that if you hit them they pop back and then they pop back in, they pop back in. He's like one of them. Now he doesn't have to get hit to do it. Someone throws a punch, he's like whoop, and then back in, whoop, back in, and he'll throw shots all the time. He'll throw combinations in the middle of that. High class, very, very, very good. Very active too, very hard to read, very, very, very varied. Throws a lot of different things, a lot of different shots, all the time. A top level fighter, and he's very good on the ground as well. He went 6-1 in Octagon, undefeated in pro kickboxing as well. Sean tells me with 5 KOs in MMA, really good. He's fighting Roman Szymanski, who's been around for a good while as well. 24 fights into his career. He's 30 years of age now. He lost last time out to Valerie Mercia in a split decision, but he was on a 4-fight win streak before that, and he beat Mercia in that as well. He beat Donovan Desme. People will probably remember who's a top fighter. He's been in there with champions like Zielinski, champions like Parnas, beating Daniel Torres, beating Sebastian Romanovsky, beating Zielinski actually back in the day as well. This guy's, look, he's a very, very good fighter as well. Very durable, very tough, good wrestling, heavy striking. You know, you look at his record and you say, okay, he's a lot of decisions in there, 12 decisions out of 24, you know, obviously 50% of his fights going to a decision. But that's, you know, that's because he is a fighter who is, I think he is smart. I said it about his opponent, you know, you look at him and it's like, how did this guy lose? Something you look at Szymanski's one, he's 7 losses, it's like, he is tough, he is durable. It's like, how are you getting him out of there at times? And you have to find very good guys to beat what he does. Like, he's the type of guy who moves a lot too. And that in itself, when you can put it together and when you can land the shots coming in when you're moving a lot on the outside, is a very tough thing to deal with. Because most fighters aren't put together well enough to be able to handle that. Let's be honest here. And he is one of them. And it's a very interesting test for Brichta because he's almost been given a guy who's a bit like him. And I'm sure he hasn't really faced that before. Whereas Szymanski has. Some of the names I mentioned there, they can fight in that similar sort of way. And maybe not Parnas necessarily, but Zielinski and others. It's a tough fight. Like I said, I think Brichta is a top fighter. I don't know if I'm picking him to win this fight though, because Szymanski is very, very, very good. I will pick him. I will pick Brichta to win. I just think he is a top prospect. His age actually isn't here on Sherdog. Maybe I'll try to find it out. But he looks young, and I think he is young. And I really, really can't wait for that fight. It's one of my favorites on this card. There's a couple more fights I want to touch on as well. Ivan Erslan versus Rafal Haratyk is definitely one of them. 13-2 for Erslan versus 16-5-2 for Haratyk. It's, I believe, his first fight in KSW. For Haratyk, he fought the Lazy King last time out in Aries. Went almost the full 5 rounds with him. If people remember that knee bar, up for submission of the year, I believe. He'd won 3 fights before that. He's fought an awful lot in ACA, Babylon and places like that over the years. He's been in there with Drickus du Plessis, obviously the alleged number 1 contender in the UFC at the moment. He's fought Amari Akhmedov back in the day, and he's won almost all of his fights, you know, 16-5-2 as I mentioned, and 9 finishes in there as well. But Erslan, you know, he has, I suppose, that experience in KSW. Not a whole lot. What has he had? 5 fights, I think, in KSW, and a few fights outside of it as well. Had a very tough fight in KSW, win 5 rounds with Ibrahim Shuzagayev, lost to Thomas Narkun as well, but that's a bit unfair to just pick out his losses. I suppose he is a very good fighter. Head down is how I would describe Erslan. Looks for the fight, forward motion, but I would say maybe not enough motion. You know, I need a bit of sideways motion. Maybe after watching the co-main event and then going to this one, it's like, well, anyone would need a little bit more motion. And this is light heavyweight as well, but he just comes alive when he gets a chance to hook someone. When he throws those hooks, they're vicious. Not very active until he gets there, and then there's big power. You know, former title challenger, he has that one quitter power, walk you down, and you know, he can take shots as well. He's very durable. Haratyk, the other side of it, and this is why this fight is so interesting to me, he draws you in. So you've one guy who wants to walk someone down and one guy who wants to draw you in. He's very odd movement with his arms and head. He's a little bit like Dominic Cruz with the head movement and the arm movement, not so much with the foot movement, which if you can picture that, you're probably doing a good job there. But he does get hit a lot, but he has big power himself. A very stiff, long, straight jab. Doesn't have amazing takedown defense either, but I think this fight's going to come down to power. Haratyk has good offensive wrestling. I don't think the defensive wrestling is amazing, but good submissions as well. I do think it's going to come down to power. I think someone's going to land a punch on someone else and knock him out. I would probably favour Erslan, but if the betting odds come out when I'm recording the betting show and Haratyk is the underdog, then maybe I'll be going for him. But a very, very interesting fight there. Right, let's run through some of the others. We have a bantamweight fight between Filip Macek and Oleksii Polishchuk. Filip, 32 years of age, a lot of submissions in his record. He's nearly 50 fights into his career. Loves the Bravo chokes, anacondas, guillotines. Not a bad striker either. Oleksii, 27 years, trained in Poland but fighting out of the Ukraine. Very strong wrestler, good ground and pound, good kimuras, good arm bars and stuff as well. Could be a jiu-jitsu matchup there, and I think someone will probably end up getting a submission, or else it'll turn into a kickboxing match for 3 rounds. Another light heavyweight fight on the card then, where we have Vojtech Garba, who's 8-4 at 27 years of age, against the 3-0 Michal Dreczkowski. Garba fights out of the Czech Republic. Very good kickboxer, good elbows, good leg kicks, very, very heavy hands. Michal trains out of Poznan, very good kickboxer as well, with some high kicks and damaging strikes as well. At 3-0, you know, it's a tough spot to be put into, isn't it? Like, against a guy with a lot more experience. But from the bits I've seen of him, he does look a guy who has a mean streak in him maybe, and I wouldn't pick against him here in this one, I do not think. Another alleged light heavyweight fight, I think it's 192 pounds catch weight. Adrian Dudek against Lukas Dvorak. Dvorak, a Muay Thai background with very good striking. No, not the biggest knockout artist in the world. He can wrestle and he's a few submissions in his arsenal as well. Dudek out of Poland, a kickboxer as well. So I expect this to be a kickboxing match, I would say. The light matchup then between Ahmed Abdulkadirov against Siraj. Sahil fighting out of Sweden, but from Afghanistan. A kickboxer as well, very good leg kicks, knockout ability. Ahmed is 28 years of age, in Austria, but trained out of Slovakia. In his KSW debut, another guy with knockout power, so we'll see on that one there. Before we talk about McNally for a second, the other one fight I want to mention is the featherweight fight, 3-0 versus 4-3. 3-0, Josef Stummer, from the 26-year-old from the Czech Republic. Very good on the ground, tough, durable. Dawid Kareta is his opponent. He fights out of Poland as well, but not too far away from where this is happening. I believe it's on the Polish-Czech border here. He's fought an octagon before. Good submissions, not the biggest power hitter in the world, so it could turn into another jiu-jitsu matchup. I love the opening fight, and I'm a little bit biased obviously with the Irish side of it, but McNally against Tobiasz Lee, 2-1 versus 3-1. McNally's training out at Danny Core's gym in Belfast, and people might know him from his rolling thunder armbar, his helicopter guillotine. He is a mad fighter, very strong striker, very strong on the ground, and I think his opponent is the same. Watched a couple of his fights preparing for this. And he has a lot. I think Sean was telling me he has over 25 fights of an amateur career, and it shows. He's very comfortable in there. I think they're two similar fighters. He throws a lot of shots, a lot of wild things, big knees, big power inside. I think this is going to be a barn burner. It's the type of one, if you saw this was the first fight on the card, you'd be like, well, I'm turning up for that one. And I love that fight. I'm going to be biased. I'll pick my fellow Irishman, McNally, in there, but that is a fight. I know it's 2-1 against 3-1, but I'm telling you, look at the quality of both of them. Go and watch some of their old fights. They're on YouTube. These guys can both fight. They can both hit. And I think it's going to be a really fun one. All right. I will leave it there. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Check out KSW this week. Check out everything else as well over on Sherdog.com. And if you haven't already, please give this video a like. Please click subscribe. We'll have lots more content coming every single day here on Sherdog.com. Thank you all for listening. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.